You can know hundreds of English words and still sound strangely stiff in a real conversation. The reason often has nothing to do with grammar. It happens in the tiny moments between ideas, when someone tells you something unexpected, when you are not completely sure, when you want to disagree without sounding rude, or when you need a natural way to keep the conversation moving. In those moments, fluent speakers rarely build long, perfect sentences. They reach for short phrases that already fit the situation. Today, you are going to train 20 of those phrases, but there is one important difference. You will not simply memorize them. You are going to learn when they belong, what they communicate, and how to make them sound like part of your own English. Chapter 1. React naturally instead of giving empty answers. Many English learners know how to answer a direct question, but conversation is not made only of questions and answers. Sometimes someone tells you something, they share information, they explain a problem, they describe an experience, they give an opinion, and now you need to react. This is where many learners suddenly become very simple. Someone says, "I've been working from home for almost 3 years." The learner says, "Okay." Someone says, "I think the meeting will probably finish around 4. The learner says, "Yes." Someone says, "I was nervous at first, but the interview was easier than I expected." The learner says, "Good." These answers are not necessarily wrong, but they do not show much connection. Natural conversation usually includes small reactions that tell the other person, "I understood you. I am following. I recognize what you mean. I have a response to what you just said." Our first 2 phrases will help you do exactly that. Phrase 1. That sounds about right. Listen carefully to the feeling of this phrase. That sounds about right. We use it when information seems reasonable, believable, or close to what we expected. Imagine a colleague says, "The drive should take about 45 minutes if traffic isn't too bad." You can answer, "That sounds about right." You are not saying, "I know with absolute certainty that the drive takes 45 minutes. You are saying, "Yes, that estimate seems reasonable." Another example, your friend says, "I think the restaurant opens at 11. You remember that it opens around lunchtime. You say, "That sounds about right." Another, someone says, "We probably need another week to finish everything." You look at the amount of work. That sounds about right. This phrase is useful because English learners often reach for, "I think yes." You may hear sentences like, "I think yes, 45 minutes. I think yes, it opens at 11. In many situations, natural English would be, "That sounds about right." Notice the word about. It makes the phrase less absolute. You are not confirming an exact fact. You are saying that something seems approximately correct. Now imagine your friend says, "I think that movie is around 2 hours long." You have seen it, but you do not remember the exact running time. You say, "Yeah, that sounds about right." That "yeah" is optional. In casual conversation, it makes the response even softer. "Yeah, that sounds about right." Now practice. I will give you a situation. Respond with the phrase, Situation 1. Someone says, "The train journey should take around 3 hours. You think that is probably correct." Say it, "That sounds about right." Again, "The train journey should take around 3 hours. That sounds about right." Situation 2. A colleague says, "We'll probably need 6 people for the project. You think that estimate is reasonable." That sounds about right. Good. Now make the phrase yours. Think of one estimate from your own life. Maybe how long your commute takes, how much something costs, how many hours you sleep, how long an English lesson should be. Create a tiny exchange. For example, 30 minutes should be enough for this exercise. That sounds about right. Speak yours aloud. Good. One warning. Do not use "that sounds about right" when someone shares an emotional experience. Imagine someone says, "My grandfather died last week. That sounds about right." No, completely wrong feeling. This phrase is usually for information, estimates, descriptions, or judgments that seem reasonable. That leads to our second phrase, which is better when the other person is describing a feeling or experience you understand. Phrase 2. I know what you mean. This phrase is one of the easiest ways to show connection in conversation. I know what you mean. It means I understand the feeling or situation you are describing. Imagine someone says, I can understand English videos, but when I have to speak, everything becomes harder. You say, I know what you mean. That reaction feels warm and natural because you are not only saying, I understand the words, you are saying, I understand that experience. Another example, your friend says, after working all day, I don't want to make any decisions at night. You say, I know what you mean. By the evening, I just want everything to be simple. Notice what happened. The phrase became a bridge. I know what you mean. Then you added your own experience. That is excellent conversation. Another example, someone says, I like traveling, but I hate the day before a trip because there's always so much to organize. I know what you mean. Packing always takes me longer than I expect. Now the conversation has movement. This phrase can also respond to opinions. Someone says, that cafe is nice, but it gets so noisy that I can't concentrate. I know what you mean. I like the place, but I wouldn't work there. Again, you understand their point. Now compare these reactions. Response 1. Yes. Response 2. I know what you mean. Which one feels more involved? The second. The words are still simple, but the conversational function is stronger. Practice now. I say, sometimes I open my phone to check one message and suddenly 20 minutes have disappeared. You respond, I know what you mean. Now add one sentence. Maybe. That happens to me when I'm tired. Good. Another. I enjoy studying in the morning because my mind feels much clearer. Respond. I know what you mean. I concentrate better before the day gets busy. Excellent. Now create your own response to this. I don't mind cooking. I just hate cleaning everything afterward. Start with, I know what you mean. Continue. Good. There is an important difference between our first two phrases. That sounds about right. Responds to information that seems reasonable. I know what you mean. Responds to an experience, feeling, or viewpoint you recognize. This is how you should learn conversational English, not as isolated sentences. Learn the situation attached to the phrase. When the situation appears, the phrase becomes easier to retrieve. Let us do a short contrast exercise. I will give you a statement. Choose the better phrase. Statement. The taxi should cost around $20. Which phrase? That sounds about right. Good. Statement. I always lose concentration when I study after dinner. Which? I know what you mean. Good. Statement. We probably need 20 chairs for the room. That sounds about right. Statement. I find big social events exhausting. I know what you mean. Excellent. These may look like tiny expressions, but they solve a big conversational problem. They give you natural reactions without forcing you to invent a full sentence instantly. And they also buy you a little time. You can say, I know what you mean, while your next idea forms. Or, that sounds about right, before adding, although I'd probably leave a little earlier just in case. The phrase starts the response. Then your own English continues. That is one of the major purposes of the 20 phrases in this class. They are not replacements for thinking. They are starting points that help thinking move into speech. Now let us move into a situation where learners often feel uncomfortable. You do not know the answer. You have an idea, but you are not certain. Instead of freezing or pretending to know, you need natural ways to express uncertainty. Chapter 2. Sound natural when you are not completely sure. Many English learners believe strong English means sounding certain, so when they do not know something, they sometimes become silent, or they use one phrase for everything. Maybe. When does the store close? Maybe 9. Is the new manager starting tomorrow? Maybe. Why did they cancel the meeting? Maybe problem. You can communicate uncertainty much more naturally than that, and being uncertain does not make your English weak. Fluent speakers constantly show different levels of certainty. They say, I think, I'm pretty sure, I'm not certain, my guess is, from what I can tell. These expressions help the listener understand how confident you are in the information. Our next two phrases are especially useful because they let you speak without pretending that you know more than you do. Phrase 3. I'm not entirely sure. Repeat it. I'm not entirely sure. The important word here is entirely. You are not saying, I have absolutely no idea. You are saying, I have some uncertainty. Maybe you know part of the answer. Maybe you think you know, but you are not completely confident. Question: does this bus go all the way to the airport? You are not certain. I'm not entirely sure. I think you might need to change downtown. Excellent. Question: is Sarah joining us tomorrow? I'm not entirely sure. She said she was waiting to confirm something. Notice how useful the phrase is. It protects accuracy. You do not give uncertain information as if it were fact. Another example: why did the company change the schedule? I'm not entirely sure, but I heard there was a problem with the venue. This structure is powerful. I'm not entirely sure, but. Then you give what you do know. That is often better than I don't know. I don't know is perfectly correct. But sometimes it ends the conversation. I'm not entirely sure, but keeps the door open. Practice. Question: will the weather improve tomorrow? You have seen the forecast, but you are uncertain. Answer: I'm not entirely sure, but I think the rain is supposed to stop in the afternoon. Good. Question: who is responsible for sending the report? You think it is Daniel, but you are not certain. I'm not entirely sure, but I think Daniel is handling it. Good. Now notice pronunciation. In natural speech, people may reduce the words slightly. I'm not entirely sure. Do not rush. You want clarity. The phrase itself gives you thinking time. Use that time. Now imagine someone asks a question and you truly have no useful information. Then simply say, I'm not sure. You do not need to decorate everything, but when you have partial information, I'm not entirely sure is excellent. Now our fourth phrase gives uncertainty in a different way. Phrase 4. From what I can tell, say it. From what I can tell, this means, based on the information I currently have. You looked at the situation, you observed something. You have not confirmed every detail, but based on what you can see or understand, this is your conclusion. Example: someone asks, is the project going well? You have seen the recent work. From what I can tell, everything is moving in the right direction. You are not claiming perfect knowledge. You are giving your impression from available evidence. Another example: is the restaurant busy tonight? You can see many tables, but not the whole building. From what I can tell, it's pretty busy. Another: do you think he enjoyed the event? You notice that he stayed for hours and talked to many people. From what I can tell, he had a great time. This phrase is extremely useful in work conversations. From what I can tell, the numbers are improving. From what I can tell, we're still on schedule. From what I can tell, the problem is coming from the second system. It lets you communicate an observation without pretending it is final. Now compare. I'm not entirely sure, and from what I can tell. They are related but different. I'm not entirely sure focuses on your uncertainty. From what I can tell focuses on the evidence you currently have. Imagine, is the machine working properly? If you have not checked it, I'm not entirely sure. If you have watched it for 10 minutes and everything looks normal, from what I can tell, it's working properly. See the difference? Let us practice. Situation: you have seen several students leave the classroom smiling. Someone asks, did the presentation go well? Answer: from what I can tell, it went really well. Good. Situation: someone asks, will the presentation happen again next week? You have no confirmation. I'm not entirely sure. Good. Another: you examine a document briefly. Someone asks, are there any major problems? From what I can tell, everything looks fine. Good. Now I want you to extend the phrase. From what I can tell, the biggest issue is. Finish with an imaginary answer. Maybe the lack of time. Another: from what I can tell, people prefer. Finish. Another: from what I can tell, the situation has. Finish. These exercises make the phrase flexible. There is also a social benefit to expressing uncertainty well. People tend to trust communication more when you clearly distinguish between what you know and what you think. Compare. The meeting is cancelled with, from what I can tell, the meeting has been cancelled, but I haven't seen the official message yet. The second tells the listener exactly how certain you are. That is strong communication. Natural English is not only about sounding relaxed, it is about communicating shades of meaning. Certainty is one of those shades. Now let us connect our first four phrases in a short conversation. Person A. The conference should have around 500 people. You. That sounds about right. Person A. I always feel tired after events that big. You. I know what you mean. Person A. Do you know if they're holding it at the same hotel this year? You. I'm not entirely sure. Person A. I looked at the website, and from what I can tell, they're using a different venue. That conversation feels natural because each phrase performs a specific job. Now we move to another skill that makes conversation much easier. Changing direction without suddenly stopping the flow. Sometimes another person says something that creates a new thought in your mind. Natural speakers have short phrases that connect those thoughts. You need those too. Chapter 3. Connect new thoughts without making the conversation feel random. Conversation does not move in a straight line. You begin by talking about work. Then someone mentions traveling for work. Travel reminds you of a delayed flight. The delayed flight reminds your friend of an airport problem. Suddenly you are talking about airports. That is normal. But English learners sometimes struggle when they want to introduce a connected thought. They either change the topic abruptly, my brother went to Spain, or they stay silent because they do not know how to make the transition. Our next two phrases are excellent bridges. Phrase 5. Now that you mention it, say it. Now that you mention it. This means, what you just said has made me remember or realize something. Imagine someone says, I haven't seen James in the office recently. You suddenly realize the same thing. Now that you mention it, I haven't seen him all week. That sounds natural because the other person's comment triggered your thought. Another example. Someone says, the room feels colder today. You had not consciously noticed. Now that you mention it, it does feel colder. Another. Your friend says, that restaurant changed its menu. You suddenly remember. Now that you mention it, I think they changed the prices too. This phrase is useful for memories, observations, and realizations. Notice the structure. Now that you mention it, plus new thought. Practice. I say, I haven't received any messages from the group today. You suddenly realize the group has been unusually quiet. Now that you mention it, the group has been really quiet today. Good. I say, your English sounds more relaxed lately. You realize you have been speaking more often. Now that you mention it, I have been practicing more conversations recently. Excellent. Now create one yourself. Imagine someone says, it has been a long time since we went out for dinner. Start. Now that you mention it, continue. Good. One important point. This phrase works because something was mentioned first. Do not begin a completely unrelated conversation with, now that you mention it. If nobody mentioned anything related, the phrase depends on the previous comment. Our sixth phrase also connects topics, but differently. Phrase 6. Speaking of which, say it. Speaking of which. This means, that topic reminds me of another related thing I want to mention. Example. You are discussing a friend named Maya. Someone says, Maya started a new job last month. You say, speaking of which, have you heard from her recently? The word which refers loosely to the thing you were just discussing. Another example. Someone says, I need to buy a new laptop. You remember that yours needs repair. Speaking of which, I need to take mine in for repairs. Another, we should book the hotel soon. Speaking of which, did you check the flights? Hotels and flights belong to the same travel planning topic. This phrase helps you move sideways while keeping the connection clear. Compare. Did you check the flights? This is understandable. But, speaking of which, did you check the flights? Makes the transition smoother. Now practice. Statement. I finally finished that book you recommended. You remember another book. Speaking of which, there's another book I think you'd like. Good. Statement. I have a dentist appointment tomorrow. You remember you need to make one. Speaking of which, I need to book an appointment too. Good. Statement. We're planning a team lunch on Friday. You remember a colleague has a birthday. Speaking of which, isn't David's birthday on Friday? Excellent. Now compare our two phrases. Now that you mention it, usually introduces something you just remembered, noticed, or realized because of the other person's comment. Speaking of which, usually introduces a related topic or question. Example: it's been really hot this week. Now that you mention it, I haven't used my jacket once. That is a realization. It's been really hot this week. Speaking of which, are you still planning to go hiking on Saturday? That is a related topic. This distinction will make your English more precise. Let us build a short conversation. Person A: I need to start exercising again. Person B: now that you mention it, I haven't been to the gym in almost 2 weeks. Person A: I was thinking about going tomorrow morning. Person B: speaking of which, do you still have that gym membership? Notice how naturally the topic develops. You can use these phrases to keep conversations alive without forcing new questions. Now try a mini challenge. Choose one topic: travel, work, food, English learning, family. Imagine someone makes a comment. Create one response with, now that you mention it, then another with, speaking of which, take your time, speak aloud. Good. These transition phrases are especially powerful because they reduce pressure. You do not have to find the perfect way to introduce every new idea. The bridge is already available. You only need to add your thought. But conversation is not only about sharing thoughts. Sometimes you need to respond to another person's point, even when you do not completely agree. That requires a different kind of language. We are moving there next. Chapter 4. Show understanding without automatically agreeing. One of the most useful skills in English conversation is being able to understand another person without pretending you agree with everything they say. Many learners know, I agree, I disagree, but real conversation has more space between those two positions. Maybe you understand why someone feels that way. Maybe their argument makes sense, but you see another side. Maybe you respect the reasoning, but reach a different conclusion. Our next two phrases help you express those middle positions naturally. Phrase 7. I can see why. Say it. I can see why. This means, I understand the reason behind your feeling, decision, or opinion. It does not always mean, I would do the same. Example: your friend says, I decided not to take the job because the commute would have been 2 hours every day. You say, I can see why, that would get exhausting. You understand the reason. Another example: someone says, I prefer working from home because the office is constantly noisy. I can see why. It's difficult to concentrate when people are talking around you. Again, you show understanding. Now suppose someone made a choice you would not personally make. They say, I sold my car and decided to use public transport. Maybe you prefer having a car. You can still say, I can see why you did that. Parking is incredibly expensive in the city. You understand the logic. This phrase is excellent for empathy. I can see why you're frustrated. I can see why she was disappointed. I can see why they changed the plan. I can see why people enjoy living there. Notice that after I can see why, you can use a full clause. I can see why you chose that option. Or you can stop. I can see why. Both are natural. Practice. I say, I stopped studying late at night because I could never remember anything. Respond. I can see why. It's hard to learn when you're exhausted. Good. I say, I moved closer to work even though the apartment is smaller. I can see why. A shorter commute can make a big difference. Good. Now make one of your own. Think of a decision someone might make. Start. I can see why. Continue. Excellent. Our next phrase is useful when you want to acknowledge an interpretation without fully accepting it. Phrase 8. That's one way to look at it. Repeat it. That's one way to look at it. This phrase means that interpretation is possible, but there may be other ways to understand the situation. Tone matters here. If you say it warmly, it can sound thoughtful. If you say it sharply, it can sound dismissive. Imagine someone says, working from home is always better because you save commuting time. You do not completely agree. That's one way to look at it. I think some people also benefit from being around colleagues. Very good. You acknowledged their perspective and added yours. Another example. Someone says, if a plan fails, it means the plan was bad. You respond, that's one way to look at it, but sometimes the situation changes. Again, you create room for another interpretation. This phrase can be softer than, "You're wrong." Natural disagreement often begins by recognizing something before adding contrast. That's one way to look at it, but, the word but introduces your alternative. Or, that's one way to look at it. Another possibility is, this is excellent in discussions. Practice, statement. People who wake up early are always more productive. Response, that's one way to look at it, but productivity probably depends more on how people use their time. Good. Statement, if you make mistakes while speaking English, you aren't ready for conversation. Response, that's one way to look at it, but mistakes are also part of learning to speak. Excellent. Now compare phrase 7 and 8. I can see why. Focuses on understanding the reason behind someone's position. That's one way to look at it. Acknowledges a viewpoint while leaving space for alternatives. You can even combine them. Someone says, I think everyone should work from home. You say, I can see why you feel that way, especially if commuting is difficult. That's one way to look at it, although I think some jobs work better in person. That is a mature response. You did not attack. You did not automatically agree. You communicated nuance. English learners sometimes avoid discussions because disagreement feels dangerous. They think they need complicated vocabulary. Often you simply need a few structures that help you enter the discussion calmly. Let us practice a full response. Topic: online learning is better than classroom learning. Start. I can see why. Continue with one advantage. Then, that's one way to look at it. But, add another perspective. Speak for 30 seconds. Good. Another topic. Living in a big city is always better. Do the same. I can see why. Then, that's one way to look at it. Good. These phrases strengthen your conversational confidence because you do not need to choose between silence and strong disagreement. You have a middle path. Now let us move from opinions to action. Someone asks you to do something, invites you somewhere, offers you an opportunity. You need to accept naturally or create a boundary without sounding cold. That is our next pair. Chapter 5. Accept and decline without sounding stiff. Invitations and requests appear constantly in real conversation. Can you help me with this? Would you like to come with us? Do you want to take a look? Could you send that later? What about meeting tomorrow? Learners often know, yes, no, okay, sorry. But there are more natural ways to express willingness and hesitation. Our next two phrases will help. Phrase 9. I'd be happy to. Say it. I'd be happy to. This is a warm way to accept a request or offer your help. Someone asks, could you check this email before I send it? You say, I'd be happy to. This feels more willing than, okay. Another example. Would you mind showing me how this works? I'd be happy to. Another. Could you speak to the new student? She has a few questions. I'd be happy to. You are saying, yes, and I am willing to do it. You can add details. I'd be happy to help. I'd be happy to take a look. I'd be happy to explain. I'd be happy to join you. Notice the structure. I'd means I would. I'd be happy to. Then verb. I'd be happy to help. I'd be happy to discuss it. I'd be happy to meet next week. This phrase is useful professionally because it sounds positive without being overly casual. Email. I'd be happy to discuss this further. Conversation. I'd be happy to help with that. Now practice. Request. Could you show me where the station is? Answer. I'd be happy to. Good. Request. Can you help me practice this conversation? I'd be happy to. Good. Invitation. Would you like to join us for lunch? You genuinely want to go. I'd be happy to. In casual conversation, you may more naturally say, I'd love to, but I'd be happy to still works, especially for requests and helpful actions. Now our 10th phrase is for situations where you do not want to decide or continue something right now. Phrase 10. I'd rather leave it for now. Repeat. I'd rather leave it for now. This means, I prefer not to deal with this at the moment. Maybe you can discuss it later. Maybe you do not want to make a decision yet. Maybe the timing is bad. Example. Someone says, do you want to decide which hotel we're booking tonight? You are tired. I'd rather leave it for now. Can we look at it tomorrow? Natural. Another. A colleague wants to continue a difficult discussion at the end of a long meeting. Should we go through the final section too? I'd rather leave it for now. I think we'll make better decisions in the morning. You are not refusing forever. You are postponing. Another. Do you want to talk about what happened? Maybe you need time. I'd rather leave it for now. This can create a personal boundary. Tone is important. Say it calmly. I'd rather leave it for now. Not angrily unless that is your intention. You can soften it. I think I'd rather leave it for now. That feels slightly less direct. Or, if you don't mind, I'd rather leave it for now. Even softer. Practice. Someone asks, should we choose the final design now? You are missing important information. I'd rather leave it for now. I want to see the updated version first. Good. Someone wants to discuss a problem while you are rushing to leave. I'd rather leave it for now. Can we talk tomorrow? Good. Now compare our two phrases. I'd be happy to opens the door. I'd rather leave it for now temporarily closes the door. Both are useful because natural English needs willingness and boundaries. You cannot say yes to everything, and you should not need 20 sentences to decline or postpone. Clear language is strong language. Let us build a small dialogue. Person A, could you help me review the report? Person B, I'd be happy to. Send it to me this afternoon. Person A, great. Do you also want to discuss next month's schedule? Person B, I'd rather leave it for now. I haven't checked my calendar yet. Excellent. Both responses sound calm. Now practice your own. Imagine a friend asks you for help with something you are willing to do. Use, I'd be happy to. Then imagine they ask you to make another decision you are not ready for. Use, I'd rather leave it for now. Speak both. Good. A major part of natural English is having phrases ready for ordinary social situations. You do not need to invent everything from nothing, and the more often these phrases appear in real contexts, the easier they become. Now we move to something learners talk about constantly: getting better at a new skill, adjusting to a new situation, learning something that once felt difficult. Our next two phrases are excellent for describing that process. Chapter 6. Talk about adjusting and improving like a natural speaker. Learning English is full of gradual change. Something feels strange, then it becomes familiar. Something feels impossible, then you start understanding it. Something feels awkward, then you become more comfortable. If you can describe that process naturally, you can talk about language learning, work, travel, technology, relationships, routines, and many other areas. Our next two phrases describe different points in that journey. Phrase 11. I'm still getting used to it. Say it. I'm still getting used to it. This means the situation is still somewhat new or unfamiliar, and I am gradually becoming comfortable with it. Imagine you start a new job. Someone asks, how's the new office? You say, it's good. I'm still getting used to it though. The word though is optional. It adds contrast. You like the office, but it still feels unfamiliar. Another example. You move to a new city. How are you finding life there? I like it. I'm still getting used to the traffic. Here you use get used to plus noun. I'm getting used to the traffic. I'm getting used to the weather. I'm getting used to the schedule. You can also say, I'm still getting used to speaking English every day. Very relevant. This does not mean you are failing. It means adaptation is happening. Another example. You buy a new keyboard. How is it? It's comfortable, but I'm still getting used to the layout. Good. Now notice the grammar. Get used to is followed by a noun or an ing form. I'm getting used to the noise. I'm getting used to working earlier. Not, I'm getting used to work earlier. Say, I'm getting used to working earlier. Practice. Complete. I'm still getting used to your current English routine. Maybe, I'm still getting used to speaking without preparing. Good. Another, I'm still getting used to a recent change in your life. Speak. Good. Now our next phrase describes the moment when a skill begins feeling easier. Phrase 12. I'm starting to get the hang of it. Repeat. I'm starting to get the hang of it. This means I am beginning to understand how to do it successfully. You are not an expert yet, but the skill is beginning to make sense. Imagine learning to use new software. At first, everything is confusing. After a few days, someone asks, how's it going? You say, I'm starting to get the hang of it. That means I'm beginning to understand how it works. Another example, You are learning to drive. The first lessons are difficult. After several sessions, I'm starting to get the hang of it. Another. You begin practicing a new pronunciation technique. At first, it feels strange. After several attempts, I think I'm starting to get the hang of it. Adding I think makes it a little softer. This is a great phrase for encouraging yourself without pretending you have mastered something. Compare. I know it perfectly. Maybe too strong. I'm starting to get the hang of it. Natural progress. Use it for practical skills. Cooking, editing video, driving, using software, pronouncing a sound, understanding a grammar pattern, managing a new routine. Example. These phrasal verbs were confusing at first, but I'm starting to get the hang of them. Notice that when the object is plural, you can say, get the hang of them, or simply, I'm starting to get the hang of it. Practice. Imagine you have been learning to use a camera. Say, at first, all the settings were confusing, but, finish. I'm starting to get the hang of it. Good. Imagine English phone conversations used to be difficult, but they are getting easier. At first, I found phone calls really stressful, but I'm starting to get the hang of them. Excellent. Now compare our two phrases. I'm still getting used to it means the situation is becoming more familiar. I'm starting to get the hang of it means your ability is improving. You can use both in the same situation. New job. I'm still getting used to the schedule, but I'm starting to get the hang of the software. Perfect. English learning. I'm still getting used to speaking without translating everything, but I'm starting to get the hang of longer conversations. Good. This combination shows real progress. Let us practice with 3 situations. Situation 1. You moved into a smaller apartment. You like it, but it feels different. Which phrase? I'm still getting used to it. Situation 2. You have been practicing a difficult recipe and can finally make it well. I'm starting to get the hang of it. Situation 3. You changed your work schedule and are also learning a new computer system. Use both. I'm still getting used to the new hours, but I'm starting to get the hang of the new system. Excellent. These phrases sound natural because they describe gradual progress instead of forcing everything into success or failure. You are not either terrible or perfect. You are adjusting. You are improving. That is how most real skills develop. Now we move from progress to outcomes. Sometimes things go badly. Sometimes they go surprisingly well. Natural English has flexible phrases for both. Chapter 7. Talk about results without using the same basic words. Imagine telling someone about a plan. You might say, it was bad, it was good, it failed, it succeeded. These are valid words, but conversation often uses softer, more natural expressions. Plans change. Events happen differently than expected. Relationships develop unexpectedly. Projects do not produce the result we hoped for, or sometimes everything goes better than we imagined. Our next 2 phrases describe both directions. Phrase 13. It didn't quite work out. Say it. It didn't quite work out. This means the plan, situation, arrangement, or attempt did not succeed as hoped. The word quite softens it. You are not saying it was a complete disaster. You are saying the result was not what we wanted. Example. Your friend asks, did you end up moving to that apartment? No, it didn't quite work out. Maybe the rent was too high. Maybe the contract failed. Maybe you changed your mind. This phrase gives the result without forcing you to explain immediately. If the person wants details, they can ask. Another example. How was the business partnership? It didn't quite work out, so we decided to go in different directions. This sounds calmer than, it failed badly. Another. Did you try studying with that new app? I did, but it didn't quite work out for me. Very useful. You are saying the method was not a good fit. Not necessarily that the app is terrible. This phrase can protect politeness. Imagine someone recommends a routine. You try it. Later they ask, how did it go? It didn't quite work out for me. I found it difficult to fit into my schedule. Natural. Now practice. Situation. You planned a picnic, but the weather changed and everyone went home early. Say, it didn't quite work out because it started raining. Good. Situation. You tried waking up at 5 every morning but became exhausted. The routine didn't quite work out for me. Good. Now make a personal example. Think of a plan that did not produce the result you expected. You do not need to share anything private. Maybe a study method, a recipe, a schedule. Start. I tried, but it didn't quite work out because. Speak. Good. Now the opposite. Phrase 14. It worked out better than expected. Repeat. It worked out better than expected. This means the final result was more positive than I thought it would be. Imagine you are nervous before a presentation. Afterward, someone asks, "How did it go?" It worked out better than expected. Maybe the audience was friendly. Maybe you remembered everything. Maybe the questions were easy. Another example. You booked a cheap hotel and worried it would be bad, but it was clean, quiet, and comfortable. It worked out better than expected. Another. You changed your schedule and thought it would be difficult. After a month, it actually worked out better than expected. The word actually can emphasize the surprise. It actually worked out better than expected. Natural. This phrase teaches you the common structure, work out. In this context, work out means develop or finish successfully. We'll see how it works out. It worked out well. It didn't work out. Everything worked out in the end. These are incredibly useful conversational patterns. Practice. You attend an event reluctantly, but you meet interesting people and enjoy yourself. It worked out better than expected. Good. You try a shorter English study schedule and discover that you remember more. The new schedule worked out better than expected. Excellent. Now compare phrases 13 and 14. It didn't quite work out. Negative or disappointing result. It worked out better than expected. Positive, surprising result. Let us build a dialogue. Person A. Did you try that morning study routine? Person B. I did, but it didn't quite work out. I was too tired that early. Person A. So what are you doing now? Person B. I moved my practice to lunchtime, and it actually worked out better than expected. That is a natural little story. Now your turn. Create a two-part example. Something did not work out. You adjusted something. The second plan worked better than expected. Use both phrases. Speak for 30 seconds. Good. The more you practice phrases in connected stories, the easier they become. You are not storing. It didn't quite work out equal sign translation. You are storing a whole situation. Attempt. Result. Adjustment. New result. That creates stronger retrieval. Now we move to decisions. English learners often know, I don't know, I choose this, but between uncertainty and final choice, there are many useful expressions. Our next pair captures that middle stage. Chapter 8. Talk about decisions before they are final. Real decisions are often gradual. You consider option A, then option B. One begins to feel better, but you have not committed. Maybe you are still waiting for information. This happens when choosing a job, a course, a restaurant, a hotel, a phone, a schedule, a travel plan, even something small like what to eat. You need natural English for that process. Phrase 15. I'm leaning more toward. Say it. I'm leaning more toward. This means, I currently prefer this option, but my decision may not be final. Imagine you are choosing between two apartments. One is larger, one is closer to work. Someone asks, which one are you thinking about taking? I'm leaning more toward the smaller one because the location is much better. You have not decided, but your preference is becoming clearer. Another example, do you want the blue version or the black one? I'm leaning more toward the blue one. Another, are you going to take the morning class or the evening class? I'm leaning more toward the evening class because it fits my schedule better. This phrase gives you flexibility. You can change your mind later without contradiction because you never claimed the decision was final. You can also say, I'm leaning toward without more. I'm leaning toward the second option. Both work. More toward is especially useful when comparing options. Practice. You are choosing between studying English before work and after work. Say, I'm leaning more toward studying in the morning because, finish. Good. You are deciding between a beach holiday and a city trip. I'm leaning more toward, finish. Excellent. Now phrase 16. Phrase 16. I haven't made up my mind yet. Repeat, I haven't made up my mind yet. This means, I have not reached a final decision. This is more natural than constantly saying, I haven't decided. Remember, in English, we often say, make up your mind. It means to decide. I can't make up my mind. Have you made up your mind? I finally made up my mind. I haven't made up my mind yet. Example. Are you going to accept the offer? I haven't made up my mind yet. Another. Where are you going on holiday? I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm looking at a few places. Good. Another. Which English exam are you taking? I haven't made up my mind yet. I want to compare them first. Notice the word yet. It shows the decision may happen later. Now compare phrases 15 and 16. I'm leaning more toward means you have a current preference. I haven't made up my mind yet means the final decision has not been made. They work beautifully together. Have you decided which laptop you're buying? I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'm leaning more toward the lighter one. Perfect. This is exactly how natural speakers talk about decisions, not yes, no, maybe. They communicate stages. Let us practice. Question. Have you decided when you'll take your English exam? Answer. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'm leaning more toward. Choose a month or time. Good. Question. Are you going to learn another language after English? Answer with both phrases. Take your time. Good. There is another benefit to these decision phrases. They help you avoid giving premature answers when someone pressures you. Imagine. Are you definitely coming? You are still checking your schedule. I haven't made up my mind yet. Clear. You do not need to invent an excuse. Or, which option do you prefer? I'm leaning more toward the first one, but I want to think about it. Strong. Now create a real or imaginary decision involving two options. Speak for 40 seconds. Explain the two options. Which one you are leaning toward. Why? Why you have not completely made up your mind. Use both phrases naturally. Good. This is how phrases become active, not by repeating them 10 times in isolation, by making them carry real meaning. Now let us move to another common problem. You asked for something. Someone gives you something different, or they understand your idea incorrectly. You need to clarify what you actually meant without making the conversation uncomfortable. Our next two phrases solve that. Chapter 9. Clarify what you want without sounding rude. Misunderstandings happen constantly. You describe a design, someone creates something different. You explain what kind of restaurant you want. Your friend suggests the opposite. You ask for a product. The salesperson shows you something that does not fit your needs. You need language that can correct the direction politely. Phrase 17. That's not really what I had in mind. Say it. That's not really what I had in mind. This means, that is different from what I was imagining or expecting. The phrase is softer than, no, that's wrong. Example. You ask a designer for a simple logo. They show you something very complicated. You say, that's not really what I had in mind. I was thinking of something much simpler. Excellent. You rejected the direction but immediately clarified. Another example. Your friend suggests a loud nightclub for dinner plans. You wanted somewhere quiet. That's not really what I had in mind. I was thinking of somewhere we could actually talk. Natural. Another. A salesperson shows you a large backpack. You want something small. That's not really what I had in mind. Do you have anything more compact? Notice the phrase, what I had in mind. It means what I was imagining, what I intended, what I was thinking about. You can also ask someone, what did you have in mind? Example, where should we meet? I'm not sure. What did you have in mind? Excellent conversational phrase. But today our target is, that's not really what I had in mind. Practice. Situation. You ask for a beginner's English book. Someone gives you a highly technical grammar reference. Respond. That's not really what I had in mind. I'm looking for something more practical. Good. Situation. You ask a colleague for a short summary. They send 20 pages. That's not really what I had in mind. I only need the main points. Excellent. Notice how the second sentence matters. If you only say, that's not really what I had in mind, The other person knows something is wrong, but not what to change. Add direction. I was thinking of, I'm looking for, what I need is. This makes the correction useful. Now phrase 18 gives the opposite reaction. Phrase 18, that's exactly what I was looking for. Repeat, that's exactly what I was looking for. This means, this matches my need or expectation very well. Imagine you are shopping for a simple jacket. The salesperson shows you one. You say, that's exactly what I was looking for. Strong positive reaction. Another, you are searching for a quiet cafe with outdoor seating. Your friend recommends one. You look at the photos. That's exactly what I was looking for. Another, you need an English practice activity focused on real conversation rather than grammar exercises. Someone gives you one. That's exactly what I was looking for. This phrase is more expressive than good. You communicate satisfaction. The word exactly is important. It means this matches very closely. You can also say, that's exactly what I needed. Slightly different. What I was looking for focuses on your search. What I needed focuses on your requirement. Both are natural. Practice. Imagine someone sends you a short, clear explanation after you ask for something simple. Say, that's exactly what I was looking for. Good. Imagine you find a lesson that focuses on pronunciation and real speaking. That's exactly what I was looking for. Good. Now pair phrases 17 and 18. You are choosing a desk. First one is huge and expensive. That's not really what I had in mind. I need something smaller. The salesperson shows another. That's exactly what I was looking for. That entire exchange feels natural. Let us practice another. You ask for a quiet hotel. Option 1 is in the middle of a nightlife district. That's not really what I had in mind. Option 2 is a small hotel in a peaceful area. That's exactly what I was looking for. Good. These phrases are practical because clarification is part of fluent communication. Fluency does not mean everybody understands you perfectly the first time. Fluency includes correcting the direction. You say, that's not really what I had in mind. Then explain, that is successful English. Learners sometimes accept misunderstandings because they are afraid of sounding rude. Then they end up with the wrong thing. Clear English should help you participate in situations, not only survive them quietly. Now we are ready for the final chapter and final two phrases. These are about flexibility. You have discussed options. You have made a temporary plan. You want to move forward without pretending everything is certain. That ability makes English sound relaxed and practical. Chapter 10. Keep plans flexible without sounding unsure. Not every decision needs to be perfect. Sometimes you simply need a workable solution. Someone suggests a time, a price, a plan, a method. It may not be your dream option, but it is acceptable. Then you want to move forward and see what happens. Our final two phrases help you do that naturally. Phrase 19. I can work with that. Say it. I can work with that. This means that option is acceptable enough for me to continue. It does not necessarily mean this is perfect. It means I can make this work. Example. Someone says, the earliest appointment I can give you is Thursday at 3. Maybe you wanted Wednesday, but Thursday works. I can work with that. Natural. Another. A colleague says, we can give you 5 days instead of 7. You think 5 days is difficult but possible. I can work with that. Another. Your friend says, we can meet at 6, but I need to leave by 8. I can work with that. This phrase sounds practical. It shows flexibility. You are saying, okay, this gives me enough to move forward. You can use it with information too. Designer. I can change the colors, but I can't rebuild the whole layout today. You. I can work with that. Good. Now practice. Situation. You wanted an hour for a meeting, but everyone only has 40 minutes. I can work with that. Good. Situation. You wanted to study English every evening, but your schedule only gives you 4 evenings a week. I can work with that. Good. Now add detail. I can work with that. 4 focused sessions are still enough for me to make progress. Excellent. One caution. This phrase is usually casual or neutral. In highly formal situations, you might say, That arrangement works for me. But I can work with that is excellent everyday English. Now our final phrase. Phrase 20. Let's see how it goes. Say it. Let's see how it goes. This means, let us try the plan or situation and observe what happens before making further decisions. This is one of the most useful phrases for uncertainty without anxiety. Imagine you start a new routine. Someone asks, "Are you going to keep doing this permanently?" You say, "I'm going to try it for a couple of weeks and see how it goes." Very natural. Another, you agree to a new work schedule. "Do you think the new hours will be better?" "I'm not sure yet. Let's see how it goes." You do not need to predict the future. You will evaluate after experience. Another example, you begin practicing English with a conversation partner twice a week. "Do you think twice a week is enough?" "I think it's a good place to start. Let's see how it goes." Calm, flexible, practical. You can also say, "We'll see how it goes." This sounds slightly more observational. "Let's see how it goes" feels like a shared approach. "We'll see how it goes" can work for your own plan. Example, I'm trying a new study schedule this month. "We'll see how it goes." Both are common. Practice. You decide to study English for 20 minutes every morning. Say, "I'll try it for a week and see how it goes." Good. You and a friend plan to speak only English during lunch once a week. "Let's try it next Friday and see how it goes." Excellent. Now combine our final two phrases. Person A. "We can only book the room for an hour." Person B. "I can work with that." Person A. "Do you think an hour will be enough?" Person B. "Probably. Let's see how it goes." Perfect. This kind of language makes you sound relaxed because you are not fighting uncertainty. You accept a workable option, you move forward, you evaluate later. Now we have all 20 phrases. But before we finish, we need to turn them from phrases you heard once into phrases you can actually use. So we are going to run a final conversational training sequence. Do not read ahead mentally, respond aloud. I will create situations. Your job is to choose the phrase that fits. Ready? Situation 1. Someone says, "The meeting should take around 30 minutes. You think that estimate is reasonable. Your response? "That sounds about right." Good. Situation 2. Someone says, "I always understand jokes 5 seconds after everyone else laughs." You recognize that experience. "I know what you mean." Good. Situation 3. Someone asks, "Is the store open on Sunday?" You think it might be, but you are not completely certain. "I'm not entirely sure." Good. Situation 4. You looked at the early numbers and they appear positive. Someone asks, "Is the new product doing well?" From what I can tell, yes. Good. Situation 5. Someone says, "We haven't heard from Alex lately." You suddenly realize that is true. Now that you mention it, I haven't heard from him either. Good. Situation 6. Someone is talking about flights, and you remember you still need to renew your passport. Speaking of which, I still need to renew my passport. Good. Situation 7. Someone tells you they left a noisy apartment. You understand why. I can see why. Good. Situation 8. Someone gives an opinion you partly understand but do not completely agree with. That's one way to look at it. Good. Situation 9. Someone asks for help with a simple task and you genuinely want to help. I'd be happy to. Good. Situation 10. Someone wants you to make a difficult decision when you are exhausted. I'd rather leave it for now. Good. Situation 11. You have started a new job and everything still feels unfamiliar. I'm still getting used to it. Good. Situation 12. You have practiced a new skill several times and it is finally beginning to make sense. I'm starting to get the hang of it. Good. Situation 13. You tried a new plan, but the result was disappointing. It didn't quite work out. Good. Situation 14. You were worried about an event, but it ended up going very well. It worked out better than expected. Good. Situation 15. You are considering two options and currently prefer the second one. I'm leaning more toward the second one. Good. Situation 16. You still have not made the final choice. I haven't made up my mind yet. Good. Situation 17. Someone gives you an option that is completely different from what you imagined. That's not really what I had in mind. Good. Situation 18. The The next option matches your needs perfectly. That's exactly what I was looking for. Good. Situation 19. The proposed arrangement is not perfect, but it is good enough. I can work with that. Good. Situation 20. You decide to try something before judging whether it is successful. Let's see how it goes. Excellent. Now we make the practice harder. I will not tell you which phrase belongs. You decide. Someone says, I think we need about 20 minutes to walk there. What could you say? That sounds about right. Good. Someone says, I hate having important conversations when I'm hungry because I can't think clearly. What fits? I know what you mean. Good. Someone asks, did they officially approve the new schedule? You have seen some signs, but no official confirmation. You might say, from what I can tell, yes, but I haven't seen the final announcement. Excellent. Someone mentions that the office has been unusually quiet. You suddenly notice the same thing. Now that you mention it, it has been much quieter than usual. Good. Someone is discussing a new phone. That reminds you that your phone battery has been getting worse. Speaking of which, I think I need to replace my battery soon. Excellent. Someone explains that they turned down a promotion because it required constant travel. I can see why. Good. Someone says, anyone who works remotely is less productive. You want to acknowledge the idea, but challenge it. That's one way to look at it, but I think the type of work matters. Excellent. A colleague says, could you check these figures when you have a chance? I'd be happy to. Good. Someone says, do we need to solve this tonight? You believe tomorrow would be better. I'd rather leave it for now. Good. Someone asks how your new English speaking routine feels. You say, I'm still getting used to it, but I'm starting to get the hang of it. Excellent combination. Someone asks about a plan you tried last month. It didn't quite work out. Good. They ask about the replacement plan. It actually worked out better than expected. Good. You are choosing between two courses. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'm leaning more toward the second one. Excellent. You ask for simple conversational practice, but someone gives you a complicated academic textbook. That's not really what I had in mind. Then they show you a practical dialogue book. That's exactly what I was looking for. Excellent. Someone proposes 30 minutes of speaking practice 3 times a week. It is realistic for you. I can work with that. They ask if you think it will be enough. Let's see how it goes. Perfect. Now notice what has happened. These 20 phrases are not 20 random sentences anymore. They belong to 20 different conversational functions. Agreement with an estimate, shared understanding, partial uncertainty, observation, realization, topic connection, empathy, alternative perspective, willing acceptance, temporary refusal, adjustment, growing ability, disappointing outcome, positive surprise, developing preference, unfinished decision, clarification, exact match, practical flexibility, open-ended evaluation. That is how you should store them, not phrase number 1, phrase number 2. Phrase number 3. Store situations. When the situation returns, the phrase has a reason to return to. There is another step. You need personal examples. Generic examples help you understand. Personal examples help you remember. So choose 5 phrases from today. Not all 20, 5. Which 5 could appear in your life this week? Maybe, I'm not entirely sure. I can see why. I'm still getting used to it. I haven't made up my mind yet. Let's see how it goes. Now create one real sentence with each. For example, I haven't made up my mind yet about what I'm doing this weekend. Your sentence, speak. Next, I'm still getting used to, your sentence, next. I can see why, your sentence, next. I'm not entirely sure, your sentence, next. Let's see how it goes, your sentence, good. Tomorrow, choose another 5. This is far better than trying to force all 20 into one conversation. Natural English develops through repeated contact. The phrase appears, you hear it, you use it, you forget it slightly. Then you retrieve it again. Eventually, you stop feeling like you are using a phrase from a lesson. It simply becomes something you say. That is the real goal. Do not try to sound native by inserting expressions everywhere. That can make your speech less natural. Use the phrase when the situation fits. For example, do not force, now that you mention it, 5 times in a conversation. Maybe you will not need it at all that day. That is fine. Natural language depends on context. You are building options. The more options you have, the less often you become stuck with only yes, no, maybe, good, bad, I don't know. You can still use all of those. Simple answers have a place, but now you can react with more precision. Imagine this conversation. Do you think the new schedule will work? Instead of maybe, you can say, I'm not entirely sure, but from what I can tell, it should be manageable. I'm still getting used to the new hours, so let's see how it goes. Look at that. 4 natural phrases, and the vocabulary around them is simple. That is a key lesson. Natural English is often not about harder words, it is about better connections. Another example, which course are you taking? Instead of, I don't know, you say, I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'm leaning more toward the evening course. Natural, clear, still simple. Another, did the new study method help? Instead of, no, you say, it didn't quite work out for me. I found it difficult to follow every day. Clear. Another, what do you think of this design? That's not really what I had in mind. I was looking for something simpler. Clear. Then, what about this one? That's exactly what I was looking for. You now have language for the entire interaction. This is why conversational phrases matter. They create structure around your ideas. You do not have to invent the whole response from empty space, and that reduces hesitation. Before we close the class, I want you to do one final speaking exercise. Imagine you are talking to a friend about learning English. I will start the conversation. You respond naturally, using any phrase from today. I say, I think 20 minutes of speaking practice every day is probably enough to make progress. You might say, that sounds about right. Continue, especially if the practice is focused. Good. I say, I find it much harder to speak when I'm tired. I know what you mean. Continue. My vocabulary feels slower at night too. Good. I say, do you think morning practice is always better? I'm not entirely sure. Continue. I think it depends on the person. Good. I say, I've noticed that I remember more when I practice before work. From what I can tell, mornings work better for me too. Good. I say, I haven't used my grammar book in weeks. Now that you mention it, I haven't opened mine recently either. Good. I say, I've been doing more listening instead. Speaking of which, have you tried listening while walking? Good. I say, I stopped doing long study sessions because they were exhausting. I can see why. Good. I say, I think nobody should study for more than 30 minutes. That's one way to look at it, but some people can concentrate longer. Excellent. I say, can you send me the listening exercise you use? I'd be happy to. Good. I say, should we plan our whole study schedule right now? I'd rather leave it for now. Good. I say, I started using English during my lunch break. I'm still getting used to it. Or maybe you describe your own new routine. Good. I say, are the conversations getting easier? I'm starting to get the hang of them. Excellent. I say, I tried studying at midnight. It didn't quite work out. Good. I say, then I moved the session to 6 in the evening. It worked out better than expected. Good. I say, are you going to keep studying in the evening? I'm leaning more toward that. Good. I say, so have you made a final schedule? I haven't made up my mind yet. Excellent. I show you a schedule with 3 hours of grammar every night. That's not really what I had in mind. Good. Then I show you a balanced schedule with listening, speaking, and rest. That's exactly what I was looking for. Good. I say, we could start with 4 sessions a week. I can work with that. And finally, do you think it will improve your English? Let's see how it goes. Excellent. That conversation used all 20 phrases without needing advanced vocabulary. That is exactly the point. You do not become a stronger speaker only by learning bigger words. You become stronger when you can handle more conversational moments. You can react, connect, clarify, decide, disagree, accept, delay, describe progress, talk about results, and manage uncertainty. That creates flexibility. Now your task after this class is simple. Do not memorize all 20 tonight. Choose 5. Use them tomorrow. Then choose 5 more. When you hear one of these phrases in a real conversation, movie, podcast, or interview, notice it. Pay attention to what happened immediately before the phrase. That context is your real teacher. Ask, what situation caused the speaker to say this? Then imagine your own version. This turns listening into active language learning, and after enough exposure, something interesting begins to happen. You stop thinking, what was phrase number 7 from that lesson? Instead, someone explains a difficult decision, and your mind simply offers, I can see why. Someone asks what you have decided, and you say, I haven't made up my mind yet. Someone proposes an acceptable compromise, and you say, I can work with that. That is when the phrase has become yours. 20 phrases will not transform your English because you watched them once. They become powerful when you connect each one to a real conversational moment and use it until you no longer have to search for it. Start with 5, put them into your own situations, listen for them in real English, use them when the opportunity appears, then add the next 5. Strong, natural speaking is built from hundreds of small choices like these. How you react, how you disagree, how you explain uncertainty, and how you keep an idea moving. You already have many of the words you need. Now give those words better ways to work together.